please start the session. Dr. Manushela, over to you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum to all of you.
Walaikum assalam.
Okay, in the last session, in the last session of mine, we were dealing with the Help RCT data, where the data was the result of a clinical trial, where the trial was conducted in order to assess the effectiveness of a novel multidisciplinary health clinic, which will possibly link the patients which were undergoing the detoxification program in Boston to the primary healthcare clinic, right? So we were mainly interested to see whether this particular concept of having a health clinic will actually help the patients to get motivated in order to link themselves to the primary care clinic. This was all done in order to get it successful and get the pressure on the medical care emergency departments reduced, and also to reduce the money on the expenses on the part of government, the medical expenses actually. So we have already dealt with the descriptive analysis, and then I showed you how we can do the inferential part and the testing of hypothesis regarding some of the variables in that data set in R. Today we will deal with the time to event analysis part, and I'll use this data set in order to show you how we can analyze time to event data, and then we will conclude the results about this data set, right? So basically the time to event phenomena, the basic quantity which describes the time to event phenomena is the probability that an individual or an item, if we say talk of the engineering product, or an item will experience the event after some specified time. What is this? The time to event, the basic quantity in the time to event analysis is the quantity which computes the probability of that an individual or an item will experience the event after some specified time. So since time is a non-negative variable, so considering it as a non-negative random variable, thus we are generally interested in knowing the probability that an individual will experience the event after some specified time small t. That is the probability that the random variable capital T will take the value greater than small t, right? So this time to event, in this time to event phenomena, the event may be death, the event may be the appearance of a tumor, the event may be the equipment breakdown, and so forth. The event can be a good event and the event can be a bad event too. So am I audible or not?
Yes, you are very much audible.
Okay. Thank you. So here we are seeing that the time is a non-negative random variable, and we are interested in finding the probability that the random variable t is taking values greater than some specified time t, right? So the distribution of this random variable t is basically described by 3 or 4 main quantities, of which 2 I will discuss it. The first one is the very quantity which I have just discussed, the probability t greater than t, and the second quantity is known as the risk function. The risk function is basically gives you the chance that an individual who has not experienced the event till now will experience the event in the next instant, or you can say in the next short interval of time, right? So risk function is the probability that an individual who has not experienced the event till time small t will experience the event in the next short interval of time, like t plus dt, right? This is the interval delta t. So here in this, I mean, in certain cases, like in time to event phenomena, in time to event data, generally we kind of encounter the problem of censoring. Generally we get encountered with the problem of censoring. What is this censoring? It is a special type of missing data that occurs in time to event analysis when the individual do not experience the event of interest during the follow-up time. So when the individual do not experience the event during the follow-up time, then we do not get to know the time, exact time in which the individual is going to experience the event, right? And suppose the individual leaves the study before that. He has not experienced that event till now, and he leaves the study for certain reason. Like if we talk of medical data, right? When we go to, if any individual goes to the hospital for some treatment, and then later on for certain reason he just leaves the treatment. So doctor doesn't get to know if he got the correct treatment. If he was relieved with the treatment he gave him to or not, right? Since the individual has left the study, the doctor will not get to know whether the disease was treated or not. So, and when it got treated, so the exact time will not be available with the doctor, right? So in medical terminology, the time to event analysis is basically known as the survival analysis, where if the event of interest is the time to the time to failure, if the event of interest is the time to failure, right? Like I have said that the event may be a good event or a bad event, ठीक है? तो failure और success का मतलब, the success का मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि एक positive event ही हो. So if the time to get treated is considered as the event, event is is the treatment, the patient has got treatment correctly, तो उस केस में मेडिकल साइंस के टर्मिनोलॉजी में हम इसको जो कहते हैं सर्वाइवल एनालिसिस कहते हैं. And the quantity which I was talking about, the probability that t greater than t, is basically known as the survivor function. That is the time to failure of an individual, the time to getting a disease of an individual is greater than some specified t, right? So in that case, in the context of survival analysis, we are interested in elongating the time, increasing the probability that the time to failure gets increased. We are interested in getting the probability value as higher and higher. But if we take an example of time to failure, getting, right? Suppose I take an example of time to getting a leave it. So I just come back to my point. So this type of problem of missing data is known as censoring, right? So censoring is a special type of missing data, and when the data is censored, when there is a presence of censoring in the time to event data, then the true time of event for particular individual is not in our hand. And in that case, the traditional regression methods, are just unsuccessful. They fail there. So special techniques for the time to event analysis has been developed, which utilizes the partial information on each individual or subject with censored data and provide unbiased estimate. And the common non-parametric inference in the statistical literature, approach in the statistical literature is the approach of Kaplan-Meier estimator. So the Kaplan-Meier estimator works by breaking up the estimation of this probability into a series of steps and intervals based on observed time events. So in this context, when we are using this particular data, HELP RCTC, where we are interested in the time here is the time of linkage to primary care. And since it is about the time to linkage to primary care, so the probability that T greater than T, I mean the quantity probability T greater than T, here for this quantity we are interested to have the lower probability, right? So I mean in this case or in this data set where we are considering the time to event as the time to linkage to primary care, so this particular quantity where we are computing the probability that time is greater than some specified time, here in this context we will always try to have the probability low probability values. I mean, we will always we will always be interested in the low probability, that the probability that time is greater than T, the time to linkage to primary care should be greater than T. We will always want this probability to get lower and lower. We will always want the novel multidisciplinary health clinic to be a good concept in order that it motivates to link the patients to primary healthcare clinic. So we are interested in having a low probability in this case, right? That the time to linkage to primary care linkage to primary care physician must be less than T, right? So we are interested to have a lower and lower probability values. So here in this context, I'm using the time in days to linkage to primary care to show you how you can do it, this time to event analysis in our language, right? For which I have used, first of all, let me tell you what are the variables I am picking up from the data set. Let me show you once the data set again. So library, Mosaic package is already installed on my PC. Thus, I just to have a look on the data set which is present in this package, I just need to load its library and then see the data. You all are having, if you all have already installed the Mosaic package, please load its library and go to the help page of this data set. So this data set is in the form of data frame with 453 observations, and you can read each and go through each and every variable which is present in the data set to understand its meaning. So here in time to event analysis, while showing you this analysis, I'll just pick up 3 variables from this data set. The variable which gives you the time and days to linkage to primary care, which is.
Excuse me, ma'am. Please increase
Yes.
the zoom in the slide.
Oh, I'm just not showing the slide.
Okay. Some participants are asking.
एक मिनट. Yes. And we just zoom it. Zoom in नहीं हो पा रही है यहाँ पे, and I don't have our console here. Just go through the, if you have my file, PDF file, just go through the first page of it. There I have attached the data. Let me show you this from my own
Now it is
PDF.
now it is clear.
No, I'll show you my first page. Okay, just leave all the things behind and just look at the screen. Here I have just attached a pic of this data set where we are all having columns. So for this time to event analysis, I have picked the column this days link, which actually gives you the time in days to linkage to primary care. Here I have just shown the 4 rows, although there are 453 rows in the data frame, right? So are you able to see? This is the days link column, right? And then the second thing which I have put, taken from this data frame is the, just a minute, this link status, okay? And the third thing which I have taken is this column, treat. Here I have shown just 4 observations. There are 453 observations. You can go to the help page of the data set and go through all the variables, meaning of all the variables and all the whole data set you can see there. So this treat stands for the variable which says that whether the patient was randomized to health clinic or not, right? This particular patient was randomized to health clinic, but this particular patient was not given the treatment of that novel multidisciplinary clinic. He was just left, and we were trying to see whether this health clinic is, we have just divided the whole number of the total number of people into 2 groups. The first group, we gave the treatment of the health clinic, and in the second group, we did not give them the treatment of the health clinic, right? We just left them. And now we want to see whether the health clinic is actually making any significant effect on linking the patients to primary care clinic or not, right? So this first patient has been given this treatment of health clinic, and the second patient is also given the individual is also given the treatment of health clinic. However, these 2 are not given the treatment of health clinic, right? And we are trying to see whether the health clinic is going to reduce the time to linkage to primary care or not. If it is not significantly going to reduce the time to linkage to primary care, then it is of no use, and we can drop this concept of having a multidisciplinary health clinic in between the individual and the primary health clinic, right? So let me again move back to the time to event analysis page. Right. So the basic quantity which we consider in time to event analysis is probability that the time to event is greater than some specified time. And here, since this time is actually representing the time to linkage to primary care clinic, so we are interested in having this probability value as low as we can have, right? So in order to look into the details of the function which I have used is, first of all, you have to install the package survival for doing this time to event analysis. So use the function install.packages, and in brackets, within brackets, you have to put double quotes. Inside it, you have to put survival. Then when it is installed, you have to load its library using the library function. Also, I have used another package, which is the Broom package, right? And loaded its library. Now to fit the data, what I have done, I have created a survival object with this serve function. So this survival function, this serve function creates a survival object usually used as a response variable in the model formula. ठीक है? यहाँ पे हमने क्या किया? Serve function से we have created the survival object. We have taken the days link variable from the data frame and link status, right? Whether the link status is representing the post-detoxification linkage to primary care, and it is a categorical variable. You can see in the data set. One is for yes and other is 0 is for no, right? So we have created the survival object with this formula, and here in the place of regressor, what we have used, we have in the place of regressor, I've used the column treat. So I'm trying to see whether this treat, the randomization to multidisciplinary clinic, is, yes, the treat is actually showing you whether they were randomized to clinic or not, right? Health clinic or not. So this is the regressor. Here I have created the survival object, and then we have to specify the data. One thing, what I have done, I have specified the data frame from which these three columns have to be taken out. If you are not going to specify this, it will not understand from where these variables are coming from. Another way to get it done is just don't specify this, just specify here help RCT $operator days link, help RCT $operator link status, then here after tilde help RCT $operator treat. That will also do the same job, but that will make the code quite unreadable. So this is the better way to attach the data set, data frame here, and then just mention the columns, right? After creating this survival object with the serve function, what I have done, I have used the serve fit function. What it does, it creates survival curves from the formula, right? The fitted object here, this is the fitted object, and you have to use this serve fit function, and it will create the survival curve. Here after that, this is the name. I have restored the result into the object fit, right? Now I have created another object fit1, to which I have stored the result tidy fit. This tidy function actually makes the result, presents the result of the this, when the result is present in this object fit, what the tidy function does, it actually presents the result which is there in the fitted object fit in the tabular form. It just gives you a tertiary version, a clean version, right? So what tidy function gives the result in a tabular fashion, right? So I have just used the tidy function on the fitted object fit, and then named the stored the result in another object which is named as fit1. Now you can see what are the variables, what are the results, which name of the variables which are there in the fitted object fit1. This is, here we are getting 9 columns in the fit1 object, and these are the columns, right? We are getting the estimate, standard error, count dot high, count dot low, straight and all. So what I will do next, I have just used the step function in order to make the plot on the basis of this particular fitted object. So the step function has the first argument as the fitted object, right? And the second argument is the estimate, the column estimate, column estimate from the fitted object, and then the time, which is also there in the fitted object, right? So, and I have just specified what will be the line type. It will be around strata, which is actually required for the preparing the legend, right? The legend will represent which type of line is representing the which group. And then these are the arguments for specifying the title on that plot, right? So here with this step function, we are getting a plot, survival estimates plot. And we are able to see that this is the thicker line which represents the no group, and this is the dotted line which represents the yes group. That means treat equal to no is representing what? It is representing the individual who has not gotten the treatment of health clinic, and treat equal to yes is for individuals who have gotten the treatment of health clinic, the novel health clinic. And we are getting this is the survival curve actually in the context of survival analysis. Basically, it is actually the probability curves, the probability of different individuals, the probability that the time to linkage to primary care is greater than some specified time. So we are seeing that the dotted line represents the time, the probability that the time to linkage will be greater than any specified time, right? This dotted line is actually, from this plot we are able to see that our probability for this treat group, yes group, the group which has been given the treatment of health clinic, is having lower probability, that the time to linkage will be greater than some specified t, and the other group which was not given the treatment has the higher probability that their time to linkage will be greater than some specified time. And we are interested in having a low probability. If the treatment group has, the intervention group is having lower probability of having the time to linkage greater than some specified time, then we will conclude that we are successful in having the concept of health clinic to get the patients in the individuals in the detoxification program to link them to the primary care clinic, and we want to reduce the time to linkage. So the probability is lower, that the time will be greater than some specified time. This probability is lower for the treatment group, and so we can conclude that the subjects in the treatment group, which is the treatment of a health clinic, is significantly more likely to link to primary care than the control group in which the treatment of health clinic was not given. So here we have come up with the result of the time to event analysis for this data set, right? Next, we move on to the Cox proportional hazards modeling. The Cox proportional, the principle of Cox proportional hazards modeling is to link the time to event of an individual to covariates. It is about exploring the relationship between the time to event to two or more than two covariates. So we will try to explore the relationship between the time to linkage to primary health care of the individuals to the two covariates, age and substance, right? These two, age and substance, are the variables in the same data set, HELP RCT. So it is a Cox model is basically a well recognized statistical technique for exploring the relationship, and we will try to see whether this age and substance are likely to increase or if affect the time to linkage to primary care clinic or not. So for that, I have again used the function Cox PH from the package survival. And the function Cox PH takes the survival object created with the surf function, and then here I have to specify the covariates in which I am interested in the effect of which I am interested, and then you have to specify the data from which the variables are coming from. So after doing the summary of the fitted object fitted with the function cox_ph, we are getting this particular result. And in the result, you can see that all of these p-values are less than 0.05, isn't it? So p-value, if we are testing at 0.5% level of significance, then we are interested in seeing whether the p-value is greater than 0.05 or less than 0.05. And here we are seeing that the p-value is less than 0.05, and the p-value being less than alpha is basically showing you that all of these, the covariates are not significantly affecting the time to linkage to primary care. So I have just concluded it in the last line that neither age nor substance group was significantly associated with linkage to primary care. So it is not the age or the substance in which the people were involved, the substance like cocaine, heroin, and alcohol, in which the people was involved, these were not, the category of these and the age were not actually impacting the time to linkage to primary care. Right? So is there any question? I'll proceed with another topic. So shall I proceed with another topic?
Please.
Yes. Okay. So much of the work has been done with this data set, and I'll leave this data set. So we will move with the problem of classification. First of all, let me tell you what the data science is. Data science is basically the process of analyzing the raw data by using statistical techniques and machine learning techniques to get insights from the data, right? So basically, what is machine learning? It is the science of getting computers to learn and act like humans do and improve their learning over time in autonomous fashion. You are all from the computer science background, so you must be knowing this very well. What is machine learning? So I'll just try to wrap up this in short while. There are three types of machine learning algorithms. Yes, supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced. In supervised machine learning algorithms, we have a dependent variable, but in unsupervised machine learning algorithm, we do not have the dependent variable. And there is the third type of machine learning algorithm, reinforced, which actually it learns by interacting with the environment, right? So supervised machine algorithm is itself of two types. One is regression and the other is classification. Here today we will deal with the classification problem, where the dependent variable is of categorical type. Are you able to see? Is the font visible? Because the page is actually, let me close this. Is the content visible to you?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So what is classification? It is the process of predicting the class of given data points, right? And these classes are sometimes called as targets or labels or categories. Here today I will try to show you how logistic regression can be used to predict a class, right? So suppose, for this I will actually first of all see this. The logistic regression accepts only dichotomous input as a dependent variable, right? So the CDF of logistic, this is the CDF of logistic regression. Sorry, I didn't mention there. This is the CDF of logistic regression, logistic model, right? And when we plot this, it takes the shape this. This is the sigmoid shape, right? And it returns values from, it takes values from 0 to 1, right? So if we want to classify the observations in just two groups, the binary fashion, right, in two groups, then we can use this logistic regression modeling in order to to classify, as a classifier, right? So I've given the example that if we want to predict whether a loan is denied or accepted based on many attributes, and we define the binary variable as y equal to 0 if a loan is rejected and y equal to 1 if it is accepted, right? So here, for the classification task, we need a discrete output of 0 and 1. So here, this is the continuity from 0 to 1. So to convert a continuous flow into discrete value, we can set a decision bound at 0.5. If the value is lesser than 0.5, we consider it as 0, or if it is greater than 0.5, we consider it as 1. So we can classify it into two groups, 0 and 1, right? So all the values above the threshold will be classified as 1, and the values below threshold will be put into the other group, right? So so let's move on with the data set which I am considering for this purpose. And the data set is about whether individuals are getting admission, whether the individuals are getting admission to a graduate institution or not, based on three variables: their scores, their CGPA, and the prestige of the previous institution, the undergraduate institution. ठीक है? तो इन तीनों variables का हम एक तरह से we are interested to see how these three variables, the scores, the CGPA, and the prestige of the undergraduate institution, which is determined in terms of the rank of the institution, is going to impact the possibility of their getting admission in some graduate institution or not. So I have just taken a hypothetical data for this, and the data set is ADM data, which I have on my desktop, and I've used this function read.csv in order to read that data. So using this function and putting the results, storing the results in the object ADM data, I have got the data in my R console, right? So by using the head function, I'm able to see 6 rows of this data. So the first row is basically a categorical, the admit is a categorical variable, where 0 represents that they're not getting admission, and 1 represents that they are getting admission. Just a minute, excuse me. So the column of scores is basically the score of the individual, right, in any undergraduate exam. And CGPA represents their CGPA, and this is the rank of the previous institution where they took the undergraduate course, right? So this is the rank. So with this function read.csv, I have brought my data into my R console. I'll show you my R page. zoom किया थोड़ा. So, yes. Are you able to see now? Is it visible to all of you? My codes? Should I zoom in more?
Zoom in, please. Yes.
Is it visible now?
Please zoom in a little bit more. I mean, its
Okay,
visibility
okay,
is very.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
So, where it is? Yes. So this is with this command read.csv function. I have just read the data into my R console, right? I have this data set. I have the data in CSV format, and I have used this path and use this function read.csv in order to load my data into the R console. So, see. And with the n row function, you can see how many numbers of rows are there in this data frame. And with the names function, you can have the names of the columns of the data frame. So moving back to the PDF file. So this way I had brought the data, ADM data in the CSV format into my R console. Now see, the variable rank and admit, these two are in numeric form, 0 and 1, and the rank is in the rank takes the values 1, 2, 3, 4. However, we must convert these variables into a factor variable so that they are not considered for any mathematical treatment, right? We must convert these ranks and the rank and the admit, the value of this variable admit, into factor variable in order that they are not subjected to any further mathematical treatment, right? Otherwise, it will, in the later section, it will treat these values as 1, 2, 3 and get mathematically added up or get multiplied, right? So what we do, we will convert it into a factor variable, and this can be done using the factor function. What a factor variable is, it is a categorical variable which is stored internally as a numeric vector, right? With some values, and that values are actually levels, right? So we are just extracting the rank from this ADM data with the dollar operator, and then converting this rank variable in the data to factor variable. Same way we are doing it for the admit variable. And then again we can see this, the head, some rows of the data, this ADM data by the head function. What we are doing next is we are actually trying to see what kind of distribution is there for all the continuous variables in the ADM data, right? First of all, I'll select all the continuous variables from the data frame ADM data, and to select all the continuous variable, I am just using the function select_f, which select all the variables which are continuous and leaves back all the factor variables, categorical variables, right? So with the select_f, I'm getting the data frame which is actually having just the continuous variables, and then we can see the summary features of this data frame that are just containing the continuous variables, right? Here we have in this data set we have two continuous variables, scores and CGPA, and the third variable is rank, which I have already converted it into a categorical variable. I'm sorry, please keep. Someone has put his mic on. Can you just get the mic off? Arman sir, please. Arman sir.
हमने जो लिखा है हाँ ठीक है आई प्रोफेसर
So I'm getting the summary features of this data frame contour_var, in which I have just the continuous variable extracted from ADM data, my full data, right? And the continuous variables are just the scores variable and CGPA. I'm getting the summary features of both of these columns, where I am getting the 5-number summary. Here I can see that it is evident that the data doesn't contain these two continuous data, doesn't contain any outlier, right? You can see the third quartile and see the maximum. There is not very much difference between the first quartile and the minimum. So it is evident that there is no outlier present in these continuous variables. But it can also be seen that at the same time that these variables, scores and CGPA, are totally on different scales, right? The score is in hundreds and the CGPA is in just a single digit, right? So these two columns are just totally on different scales. So what we are going to do now, in the next step, I am just trying to find out what is the mean of the scores column and the CGPA column. And I am finding this mean at, the mean of second and third column together by making use of the function sapply. So the means of the scores variable is 587.7 and the mean of the CGPA variable is 3.38. In the same way, with the use of sapply function, I can again find out the standard deviation for these two columns, the scores and CGPA column, right? So I have found it and stored it into the object, which is a vector, and the object name is given as SDs, right? So what we are doing next, we are actually, any supervised machine learning task requires us to split the data between a train set and a test set, right? So in the next step, we are making a function, defining a function which will split our data into train set and test set. So I have defined this function create_train_test, and I have split the data into 70% and 30%. 70% and 30%, right? So my train data will comprise of 70% of the data which I have, the ADM data, and the test data will comprise of the 30% of the ADM data, right? So defining the size will actually split the data into these ratio, right? So this is the function created, and then I have used this function on ADM data in order to in order to create the training data and the test data. Now, the thing which I had already discussed is that in the summary, the continuous variables, the score variable and the CGPA variable, both are on totally different scales. So what we do next is to standardize the variables, these two variables, the scores variable and the CGPA variable. For I am standardizing this, I am just picking up the train data. We have to standardize here just the train data. I'm picking up the train data, and this is actually this extraction operator. By placing a comma first, what I'm doing, I'm picking up all the rows of this train data and just the second column of it, right? So what I'm doing, I'm picking the second column and all the rows of this train data, and subtracting the means of this particular data set, the means which I had already computed. Means is a vector which gives you the means of score variable and also the means of CGPA variable. So it contains both the values for the scores also and for the CGPA, right? So here, while using the means, we must extract the first element, which is the mean of the scores, and the first element in the SD's vector, which is the SD of the scores variable. And then we are actually standardizing this variable in the data set, which is now known as data underscore train, right? In the same way, the standardization of the CGPA variable is done by picking up this column from the train data and then subtracting the mean of the CGPA and dividing the whole by standard deviation of the CGPA, which we had from the ADM data, complete ADM data. Now, I'm just again printing this, the 6 number of rows, the first 6 rows of this trained data. Now we will build in the model and see how the algorithm performs. To build the model, I am using the function GLM, which is present in the ARM package, right? And I am performing the modeling where I am specifying that the function is the logic function. It is not written, but if you go to the help page of GLM function, let me show you. Help page of GLM function. Here, what is the first argument? It is the formula which you have to specify according to your data set. And then the next argument specifies the family of distribution. It can be Gaussian. Gaussian is the default, but you can have several distributions here, and you can find the different distributions which you can specify here by clicking on the family. And here you can see that the distribution which can be specified in the GLM function are binomial Gaussian, gamma, inverse Gaussian, and here the link is logic. And the logic link, what it does, it actually is the log of the odds. Odds is the probability that the success would happen divided by 1 minus probability of success. That is log of the probability of success divided by probability of failure. This is called log odds. So we are making this use of this distribution binomial with logic link in order to fit this data set, right? We have picked the admit column from the data set The data set is now not the ADM data, just the train data, right? And then from the train data, I have picked up the admit column and the scores column, CGPA column, and rank column. The rank is the categorical variable I have already converted into a factor variable, and the scores and CGPA columns are standardized now. So after fitting with GLM, I have stored the result in GLM fit object. And the summary of the results can be seen by the help of summary function. So this shows you the table, the parameter values, right? What we will do next, we will now standardize the test data also. What I have done here, I have just extracted the data frame, test data underscore test, the scores column, extracting the scores column from this data set, and then taking the second column, the scores column, from the set data underscore test, and then subtracting the mean, and then dividing with the same value of mean and SDs. We are performing the standardization of the test data also, right? When we specify just a comma without having any value preceding comma, then the extraction operator extracts all the rows and the specified column which is specified after the comma, right? 2 is specified, thus this particular thing, this will result into the second column with all the rows, right? So I have standardized the test data also, and then printed the first 6 observation of this test data. See, we have just split the data into 70-30 ratio, and since I had 400 number of rows in the original ADM data, the 30-70 ratio will convert it into 2 data frame, where the first data frame will have 280 rows and the second data frame will have just the 120 rows. That's why head data underscore test is having the row number as 281, since it is taking the values from after 280. Now, in order to assess the performance of the model, we will compute the confusion matrix. And this is the confusion matrix, and the idea is to count the number of times the true instances are classified as false. So in order to compute the confusion matrix, we first need to have a set of prediction so that they can be compared to the actual targets. So I'm predicting with the predict function. The fitted object is the GLM fit. This predict is the function, and GLM fit is the fitted object. After that, I have specified the data set which about which I have to do the prediction. So the data set is actually now the test data. We are actually considering the test data as unseen data, and we want to predict the admit column for this unseen data, right? So after that, you have to specify type equal to response, right? Now, this predict will, the result of this, this treatment with the predict function will be is stored in the pred object. Now I am specifying the threshold as 0.5, right? And then computing this confusion matrix by using the function table. Here what I am specifying in the table, I have to first specify the response variable column, which is the admit, and then specify that the pred should be greater than thresh. And this will give you the result, a confusion matrix of these values. And now you know that the accuracy is computed by this formula. true positive plus true negative divided by the sum of all the observations in the matrix. So what I am doing, I am using the true positive and true negative in the numerator, summing it up. And what I am doing this using the Dirac function. I have just picked up this object which I have created and applied the function Dirac, which actually picks up these two diagonal elements, true positive and the true negative, right? And then what if I have to do in the numerator, I have to sum the true positive and true negative. I have summed it with the function sum and then divided it with the total number of true positives, true negatives, false positives and false negatives, which is the total of the all the observations. That is the sum of this particular object, which is having these in the form of a matrix. So I have got the result stored in accuracy 1 object, and printing this accuracy 1 in the R console will get you the result, will show you the result. And the result is 0.68, right? So here when I'm specifying the threshold as 0.5, I am getting 68% accuracy with this model. So we can also tune the threshold. We can also specify different threshold in order to see the performance of the algorithm. And I have specified the threshold as 0.4 here, and then again computed the confusion matrix. And the result is stored in the object conf.matrix2. And in the same way as we calculated accuracy 1, we have to calculate the accuracy based on this confusion matrix, which is named as conf.matrix2, and find out the result. The result is stored in accuracy 2 object, which is a vector of length just 1, right? We will again specify another threshold to see the performance of the algorithm. The threshold is again specified, a new value, given a new value, which is 0.6, and again the confusion matrix is calculated, it's computed with the function table, and finally we have computed the accuracy for this confusion matrix, the third confusion matrix, and it is 0.666, that is 66. That is, we are actually summing the diagonal elements and then dividing it by the sum of all the elements. So here based on the third confusion matrix, where we have specified the threshold as 0.6, we have got 66% accuracy in the performance of the algorithm, right? So I have just, in order to have a quick look at the accuracies defined by 3 types of threshold, I have just created a vector of these accuracies based on 3 confusion matrix, and so as to have a quicker look on the 3 values. So in the first one, I am getting 68% accuracy. In the second one, I am getting 64% accuracy, and then in the third one, 66% accuracy, right? So on the basis of this accuracy measure, we will reject or do not reject the model, right? Since our accuracy is more for the first confusion matrix, based on the first confusion matrix, where we had put the threshold as 0.5. So we will consider the 0.5 as the final threshold. Like if the probability of getting, if the probability comes out to be greater than 0.5, we would assume that individual will surely, more is going to more likely be admitted in the graduate institution, and if the probability is lower than 0.5 or lower or less than equal to 0.5, then we will consider that, we will assume that the individual is likely to get not get admitted to the graduate institution. So yeah, you can see that I'm not getting very much accuracy based on these results. 68% is not very high, you may say that, but yeah, this is a hypothetical data, and including more number of more number of individuals into our data, more number of samples into our data, and by tuning the threshold again and again, and by having employing the good sampling method, we can improve this model, right? So this is all about the classification problem which I have dealt with the use of logistic regression process. So that's for all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rumana Shaila, for your beautiful explanation of the concept. If there is any query or any question, participants are requested to quickly put it across, because we are now reached to a point where we shall start our validatory session. Any question from the participants? No. Okay, Dr. Rumana Shaila, thank you so very much. You can now close your presentation.
Question.